Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
We love to have the executives from Faith Farm Ministries. Now, they have 3 great campuses, one of which is Boynton Beach, the other is in Fort Lauderdale, and the other is in Okeechobee. Now, many of you have not been in Okeechobee, but I think that it's a little bit different, as I was talking with the assistant director, and that's Mark Murphy. So we're going to hear more about it. Hi, Mark, and thanks for coming into the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And, you know, I always think of the Faith Farm as a place like, and it's called Faith Farm because it is farming people, you know, whether Okeechobee, they have farms, but even the others, it's farming people to be the best they can be, the cultivation. You know, we're putting topsoil. We're doing things to make them sprout and to be beautiful. Is that a good way to put it?
Absolutely. And growing faith in them.
Yes. And you said, of course, that you've been with them 14 years, and you, like a lot of the executives, have had some addiction problems. You found Faith Farm, and there you are now. You didn't want to leave.
Well, actually, I came through the program twice. Once in 2002. I didn't know the Lord at all. My life was a mess. I came through the doors. I found God. He allowed him to work in my life. I allowed Jesus to be my Savior, but I didn't allow him to be my Lord at that point. And I kind of put him back on the shelf, you know, back in the box. He put my life together. I said, thanks, God. I can handle it from here, and I'll take the wheel. And I knew.
And have you been able to?
No. I knew he was calling me to stay, but I wasn't at the point where I wanted to surrender. So I left thinking I could handle it on my own, that God would follow me. But needless to say, it didn't work out good for me. About a year and a half later, I was just as broken, just as hurt, and found my way back at Faith Farm in 2005. But at this point, I was ready to surrender. I knew my way wasn't going to work. You know, I had tried my way 10 different ways before, but I had to try my way one more time because I knew I couldn't get myself out of the hole I was in. But once God got me out of that hole, I thought maybe my thinking would keep me from falling back into it. At least it'd be good enough to do that. But I was wrong. I was in a hole twice as deep.
Do you have a family? Did you have a family?
Not at that time.
So that was good, though, wasn't it?
My life was such a mess I couldn't have any relationship.
But your parents probably suffer. You know, it's always when I go to graduations, Mark, I always see the parents, or when the parents will come, and hopefully they will. And they are so affected. And yet, the more they try to get their children, their adult children, to listen and do the right thing, it can't come from that. I mean, it could. It should, but it doesn't. Right. Everybody has something. Do you have a family now? I think you acted like you did.
I do. Since I've been back, and it's been 14 and a half years, and I've stayed this time to the calling that God had in my life. I've been married. I got 2 great kids.
Great. And they live on campus with you, don't they?
They do. My wife, Melissa, and I have a 15-year-old Gavin and a 9-year-old Cody.
So that's amazing to me that a lot of the executives do live on campus. And tell me why that is.
So that we're part of the community there. We live right with the guys. You know, it's not like a 9-to-5 job where at 5 o'clock we go home, and, you know, we're living right there with them. It's part of our community.
And that helps them, too, because I think what's happened, and I have spoken with a lot of people who've been addicted in different forms, whether it's alcohol or drugs or something, and they feel really so lost, but that no one loves them. But right. I think when you're there as a family, and you accept them, then they come in, and then they have to take the same thing, the same road, and they have to take other people and feel the same way. So it is a family. How many people do you actually have out in Okeechobee?
Right now, about 60 guys in the program.
And it's the same program, though? They stay 10 months, and everything's the same as the other locations?
Yep, just different location, exactly.
And we have some people listening. Oh, my goodness, we have a lot of people listening to you. You've become a star already. So let's just talk about the program. So let's say someone knocks on the door, and they don't come in automatically, right? What do they have to go through?
Correct. Typically, the process starts from them going to our website. And they can kind of navigate through the website, get an idea what the program's about. There's a good description, summary. And if they feel like it's something they're interested in, they submit an online application. And then that's done right at our website. The applications are reviewed and processed.
So no one talks to anybody first?
Not at that point. Once we get the application, we call the person back. We just do a brief call back, talk with them, see what's going on in their life, what they're looking for, how broken are they, what are they willing to do for their recovery. Because we don't try to sell the program to a man. We want a man to convince us he's ready that he wants recovery. Because everybody in addiction needs recovery. They got to get to the point where they want recovery.
Good point.
And that's what we look for.
Good point.
And then we kind of do a phone interview with a man. Spend about 30 minutes with him on the phone, going over all the ins and outs of the program.
You don't do this, do you?
Well, I've been doing it for the last 10 years.
Is that right? So that's one of your responsibilities.
As an intake counselor, yep. But like I said, about 4 hours ago, I've been appointed the assistant director of the campus.
Yay!
That still hasn't sunk in completely.
Well,
I'm excited.
But it's what you've been doing. I'm sure
Exactly.
it's because you've passed the test as far as knowing what you do and that people trust you. But go back to that. So now this person's being talked to.
Yeah.
And why do you reject some people?
Well, we're going to talk to them and overall kind of make sure they're fully aware of what the program's going to be all about. Everything to be required to participate in, submit to, be a part of. Because it is a big commitment. It's a 10-month program. They do go through orientation phase when they first get here. So it's overall almost a year. So we don't want a guy that's going to come there and be like, hey, this ain't what I signed up for. I didn't know it was going to be like this. This is harder than I thought. Because it is going to be tough for a man to deal with his stuff, and get recovery. So we want them to know what they can expect out of the program, what the program would expect out of them. And if they say, yeah, this is something I want to do, I'm willing to do this. And if we feel like they're going to be a good fit, we'll schedule them and bring them on in and start their road to recovery. And basically it's going to be mainly helping them step into a relationship with Christ. Cause that's what it's all about. I tell men, the farm won't fix you, the staff won't fix you. We're going to try to provide an atmosphere that's going to be conducive for you to allow God to work in your life, because he's going to be the one that has to do the change.
And so Mark Murphy is here, and as he just told you, he just got a wonderful promotion, who's now the assistant director of Faith Farm Ministries Okeechobee campus. And the one thing that I have just loved is that the honesty of the people who, like yourself, and I've had other people, I think Raj was on my show not too long ago, and and I can say it's because he said, his parents will still not accept him.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he told me on the show that they don't think what he's doing is right. It's interesting, but He's so determined, and he loves Faith Farm so much. So everybody brings something different to the program. And I didn't ask you why, here you came and then it just didn't work out, and then you had to leave, and then you had to come back again. That must even be harder.
It was kind of tough, but at the same time it was easy, because I remembered the love and acceptance I got the first time as soon as I walked into the door. So even though it was humbling to come back, I was able to do it because I knew they were going to accept me back.
The thing that I think the word broken that came out of your mouth, came out of almost everybody's mouth. When someone feels that there's no hope, and that's the word, broken, right?
Right.
Now they get to come to a place that they do not have to pay for anything, food, for their health, for their room and board, in a sense, and they learn a new trade. Where else can you do that, Mark?
Nowhere that I know of. It's like God lifts all these other responsibilities and burdens just so they can have a time out for life and just to focus on their relationship with Him, and allowing God to work in their life, But they got to get broken. I see a lot of times a man can be broke for many years, but not broken. And the key is that he gets to a place where he's broken.
And I think what's been wonderful about, and you just mentioned about what someone has to be when they are interviewed, but it's the people like you that they have found, because I have not found anyone on the campuses yet who've come in for the radio show or I've met at the homecoming who aren't special. You're very lucky. You attract a very interesting group of people who are appreciative, who are caring, and I guess the ones, maybe there are some and they're gone. I never meet them because not everyone's perfect, and maybe it isn't the right thing for everyone. The other thing that I've noticed is, as you went through the program and then successfully, and then you stayed. And
Correct.
A lot of other people, they leave, but they seem to either create new programs like this or do something. It's not like they go away and forget it, do they?
Nah, you can't, And God calls us, to go forth and make disciples. And that's what we hope our men do that graduate. We have some that are going to be called to stay and help us to make disciples here, and to be a part of what God's doing at the campuses. But we really appreciate when we hear guys leave and they're being effective to other men's recoveries and helping people get their life back on track.
Right.
And
some have started churches. They've started lots of things. I've seen all that. And I have had some people on here who they're not running any of the places like you are, but they've come on as a guest with one of the executives, and they're pretty high powered. I mean, these are people who are making lots of money and been in very high positions. So it shows that it doesn't make any difference if you just worked, as a mover somewhere, or you were a president of a big company. We're human beings, and everything can affect us.
Yep.
The problem is we don't know where to go. And I have also heard about the places that are very expensive, and people go, and many of them don't make it.
Yeah.
And what's the difference? Well, the difference, of course, is the religion, but also I think it's even more than that. And this is my impression, that a lot of times you go, and I haven't been to these other kinds of retreats, but they're not bringing in the love. I think what they're bringing in is words and what you should do and how you get right. It's more psychology.
Yeah, more behavioral modification,
Yes. But it isn't that. It's like when I've gone to the graduations, and there may be 12, and the guys are all hugging each other, and they're laughing with each other, and these people, and it's all religions, creeds. I mean, everything's different there. You take everybody in. And it's amazing to me how they're just one big brotherhood or sisterhood. Now, see, we haven't talked that because I know in Okeechobee you don't have the women there.
Right.
But what the women have gone through, I mean, they stand there and talk about it, and you just praise, Faith Farm, because they were really fallen. I mean, doesn't that affect you? Oh,
yeah. Yeah, it's cool to see God just restoring and the men and the women and everybody. You can hear stories of, mothers getting their sons back, and, wives getting their husbands back, and children getting their fathers back, and mothers. And it's just awesome to be a part of something that changed my life and be used of God in that arena. It's just really cool.
Now, the people watching, we've had so many, but Judy, you remember Judy's watching.
Okay. Hi, Judy.
Hi. And Lloyd Hassner's watching. He's a big developer. And then you have John Album's watching, and he owns a big insurance company. So people like to watch, they like to hear, and most people love Faith Farm. They don't really know a lot about them. That's why we have the radio shows and why we write articles in Boomer Times, because you're still a secret. You know that.
Right. And I discover a lot of people and say, you know about Faith Farm? And they'll say, yeah, they got a thrift store.
Exactly.
Well, do you know what the thrift store supports?
Exactly.
What do you mean? So.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just about 2 weeks ago, my youngest son had broke his arm. And I was taken to a follow-up doctor's appointment at the orthopedic doctors, and I was in the waiting room. We were waiting to be seen. And there was a lady a few chairs down talking to her friend she was with, and she was talking about some furniture she had and how they were coming to pick it up the next day. And not eavesdropping, but you couldn't help but hear it. And I heard how she had scheduled Faith Farm to come pick it up. She was donate to them. So I had an opportunity just to kind of lean over and just tell her, thank you, appreciate your support. And, if you don't know, here's what the program, the donations support this program. And it actually changed my life. And it's just really cool being in my community and got to witness that and just to encourage her what her support was supporting.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I think would be good is talk about all the opportunities that the men have to learn new trades, because I know about Boynton Beach. Is it exactly the same out there?
It's
you don't have as many trucks. You have trucks.
Not as many. Yeah, we just have a couple trucks. But it is work therapy program. So the guys come in, they do work. It's like having a full-time job. They don't receive any income, but their work helps kind of participate in the cost of their recovery. Because we teach men in addiction are nothing but takers, and recovery is going to where they switch not being a taker but start being a giver. And when they start to participate in the cost of their own recovery, they're going to appreciate what they have to work for. Not making somebody else pay for it, or insurance or anything like that. It helps support the ministry, the work that they do. So our doors can stay open to continue to bring men in, help them get their life back on track with the Lord. as well as a big part of the program about how to structure routine, being productive, giving responsibilities, and because when they start having a good routine, waking up, having an honest day's work.
What time do you have to wake up?
They get up at 5:30.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
5:30.
They start early.
And
When I
then-
interview guys and they hear that, they're kind of like, that's kind of early at first,
But they're going to bed early,
correct.
right? I think they go to bed, what, at 10 o'clock or even
They
earlier?
don't have a set bedtime to go to bed, but they're pretty good about governing themselves.
But there's no TV after a certain time or
correct,
something.
correct. Yeah, TV does.
But
go
they
up.
do have TV.
Correct. Yeah.
But it's all monitored. Everything is it's done
Exactly.
properly.
The time frames, what they're watching, it's all monitored for it to be a healthy.
Oh, that's
manner.
interesting.
Oh,
what
yeah.
they're watching too. Okay.
Um,
Well, that's good. So I want to talk about the food because this is hysterical. You're feeding how many people every day besides the people, the students? You're also feeding yourselves.
Yeah, the staff,
So how many meals every day? Remember, this is Okeechobee, the smallest one.
Right, and 3 times a day, probably over 200 meals.
Absolutely.
And the food is great.
And who's cooking it?
The guys in the program, they're supervised by a staff member who's one of our great graduates as well, that stayed on, that the Lord kept, and the men participate in the food and all the daily routines that keep the program going on a day-to-day basis is all supported by men in the program.
Right. And then let's talk about the graduations and let's talk about homecoming. I love those are celebratory things. I love them. I mean, I always go. I live in Boynton Beach, so it's easy for me to go to the Boynton Beach one, but maybe I will travel up to Okeechobee because I really would like to see that. Do you still have cows there?
Just very few. Very few.
Okay.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story. But you don't have goats, do you?
No, we used to.
Because I just went on a press trip, and it was in Michigan, and there's a restaurant that have goats on the top of it, and they bring them there for they put grass on the top, and they bring them there just for a few hours, and then because it's what makes that restaurant famous.
Okay.
And I got to take pictures with the goats. I mean, they're really cute things. So I was curious because goat milk is something that I guess you could sell. When you had the cows, it wasn't for the milk. It was because you then
beef cattle.
Beef
correct.
cattle.
Yeah.
But I guess for the little goats, it would be maybe goat milk, and maybe it's not productive enough and too much work.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, we'll go back to the celebrations because I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, the graduations, they're a great time. It's what our staff commonly call is the payday, because that's what it's all about. That's our payday. We get a salary, that takes care of the bills, but what we're doing it for is for changing men's lives, and that's when we get to hear their testimonies and get them reunited back with their families, and as they continue their road to recovery. It's just great.
And at the graduation, not the graduations, well, there's always music, but at the homecoming, I don't know where you get these bands from, and they're all part of the campus. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah. A lot of our praise teams have guys coming through the program, or have come through the program.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of talent comes through our
and they're
different
appreciative, and that's why they come back. They know what it's done for them.
Exactly.
And I've heard from some of the executives that there really isn't a program like this anywhere in the country. Not like this. A lot of programs, but nothing as developed. You started what? Pappy was 68 years ago. It keeps in my brain. I don't know exactly.
Right about there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure exact year either, but
Yeah.
I think it's been over 60 years.
And that someone started something just because he wanted to get people, to have a place to sleep and have a little bit to eat. And then and he could see that was a story that they just kept going back. They weren't able to recover.
Right. And why it worked, because it was a vision God gave him, and he was obedient, and I'm thankful for Pappy for being obedient to that, because through that and through that faith and action, there was a place for me to go.
Exactly. And how did you find out about the place?
I was in a detox in Fort Pierce, which is just the next town over from Okeechobee, and then I heard about it while I was there.
Because you didn't know what you were going to do after the detox.
Exactly.
Did you?
I didn't know. It was the first time I ever looked for help or tried to get help, and I was talking to the counselor at the detox facility, and he looks at me. He's like, "So what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I need help. I was hoping you'd tell me what to do." And he's like, "Well, do you have any insurance?" And I was like, "No." I was in addiction. And he's like, "Do you have any money?" Well, if I had any money, I'd still be out there using, wouldn't be here, and at the end of my rope. And And then we started talking, and they said, well, there's a faith farm in Okeechobee. And I said, well, what's that all about? And he said, it's free. So I said, all right, got my interest. And then he started telling me about it, and I was like, no, I don't think that's for me, because I'd never been to church a day in my life. And,
that's really good.
So I was like, I don't know about that churchy place.
Right.
Churchy
It's not really
place. My
I
cup
love
of tea. And then as I was spending like a minute or two explaining to him why I didn't think that'd be a good program for me, is, something went off my head. It's probably the Holy Spirit trying to get my attention. Where suddenly I was like, maybe that's exactly what I do need, And I was at the point, it was like, I really didn't know the Lord, but I was, God, if you're real, I need you.
Right.
I need to know if you're real, because I'm in a place in my life where I have nowhere to go. And I went there, and I took this step of faith, and God revealed himself to me, and, worked in my life. But like I said, grabbed the wheel back, and took a year and a half me to go back out there to come back and say, all right, God, I completely surrender this. I want you to be my Savior and Lord.
So that was interesting. So you did get a chance to go there and do it, but it still wasn't exactly right. So when you went out, did you get addicted again?
I did, about 6 months after leaving. It was slowly but quickly.
In other words, you were okay for a while. You tried not to.
Yeah.
But then they say once you have a drink after you've been, I know a lot of people that are addicted, and they'll say, no drink. I can't even have one. I can't. It starts it. Because I always thought there was a lot of chemical imbalance in there too, that some people can have alcohol and some people can't, because it's like it's insatiable. You just continue doing it.
Right.
But whatever happened to you, they're lucky to have you now, and I'm glad. But that's a long time to be somewhere. Little did you know, right, that this would be your home.
Yeah, I never thought coming into the program that years later I'd be helping to direct it.
So you were younger when you were there.
I was. I was thinking about coming up the elevator today to this building, come to the top floor, and just kind of reflecting what God has done in my life, especially after everything this morning. And I just had to give him praise.
Yeah, that was really Did you get a chance to tell your wife?
I did.
Oh, that's good, because you have to make that phone call when you get finished. You can tell. Are your parents alive?
They are. They both live in Port St. Lucie.
So that's close. So you still have a close relationship then.
I do. They just had their 51st anniversary this year, so they've been together for a long, long time.
Yeah, and they're so proud of their son now. I'm sure this is what they were wanting, right?
Yeah.
And now they have the grandchildren that you can, bring over there. So life's pretty good for you at Faith Farm, it looks like.
It is.
So what we want to do now is, our listeners, we want you to contribute. Now, yes, you can go to whether you want to go to Okeechobee, if you're listening and you're up in that area, go to Okeechobee and they'll tell you where the thrift shop is or whatever you want. But if you're in the Boynton area, you know where the thrift shop is here, and if not, go down to Fort Lauderdale. But it's more than a thrift shop. Yes, you can call them and they'll pick up your unwanted articles. Or you can go there and you can buy wonderful things, new furniture from Ashley. It's gorgeous stuff. But I always ask people to just send money, sponsor someone, and you can see what happened. My guest is Mark Murphy, and Mark told the story. He was very open about it. And if you thought that you could help one person and you can hear about it, there are a lot of organizations that you throw money to, and they're doing good things. But at Faith Farm, you could almost pick out each person. Go to a graduation, and you'll see what it did for each one of those people. So your money works for you. And I've asked you, so if some of you don't have a place to leave money, please, tell your lawyer or tell your accountant, whoever it is, you want to leave some money to Faith Farm. I'm sure that you would love to see someone write a big fat check. We need someone who's listening who has a lot of money, can write a check for $1 million. That would make a big difference. Think of all the extra rooms that you could build and bring more people on, right?
Yeah. And our graduations are open to the public. Anybody can come and just kind of hear the testimonies and see the men.
It's magic. It's just wonderful. So they would go to faithfarm.org, get on the website, and that will tell you the dates and times of the graduations at each one of the campuses.
Yes, and their addresses.
Yes, and then also when you have homecoming. I think, are people from the outside allowed to come to homecoming?
They are.
And then you'll really see something. I mean, I don't know where you get your speakers from, but they are mesmerizing, aren't they?
They are.
And a lot of times they're not from Faith Farm, they're just from other recovery. They know about recovery.
Correct. We usually have a guest speaker that's from outside, and then we have typically 3 alumni from the Faith Farm program that kind of share, that been walking out their recovery, just about what God's been doing in their life. That's always cool to hear.
And the one program, I know we haven't talked about this, but there's a way if someone has done some stuff that they got in trouble and they're going to be sent to prison. Not killing people, but just other kinds of things. A smart judge, and I think this was worked out at least in Palm Beach County, will say, well, if you'll go to Faith Farm and fulfill that time, we'll drop the case and you won't have to go. And you know that they do that.
Mm-hmm. I do.
I mean, do you have some people like that coming through for you?
We do, and that's a big part of our screening process, because sometimes we get a guy, maybe he's got some legal stuff, and that opened his eyes and says, hey, I got some life control problems. I want to get help, and I don't want to keep doing this anymore. Or we kind of have to decipher the guy that says, I got caught. I don't want to go to jail. I want an easy way out. And so there's tension in there. So we try to find the ones that are sincere about really wanting to change their lives. You got a guy that steals just because he doesn't like to work and doesn't want to have to do anything. But you got the guy that's in addiction and he's stealing because of his addiction and it's causing him to. And those are the ones we really want to help. That are just
you're a great. You're a great saint for them. I have to tell you, you've done a great job. This is your first time, you said, but Mark Murphy just got his new promotion, assistant director of the Faith Farm Okeechobee campus. And Mark, I see it wasn't too scary.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I enjoyed having you because you're real, you're honest, you know what you love, and you're a good part of it. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.